All right. The first round of the NFL draft has concluded. We know who the San Francisco 49ers have selected. We've seen the aftermath since the draft pick has been made. Just wanted to hop on here and talk and see how everyone is feeling after getting some time to think about it a little bit, kind of marinate on the situation and just kind of gauge where we are at for a late night reaction to the San Francisco 49ers pick at 31. Let's see what you guys got to say. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. All right, mental health check. How are we doing, guys, after the first round has come to a conclusion? Just wanted to check in with all of you guys one more time before we call it quits tonight. Um, we've heard from Kyle and John. We've heard the reports. We've seen Debo respond to some of it. We've heard that Brandon Ayuk's texting with John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan. So how are we feeling? How are we feeling about it? Let's talk about the player. Let's talk about the player, and then we'll talk about all the other things because I think unfortunately with the pick, we don't get to, like, we haven't really spent a whole lot of time talking about Ricky, the guy, who he is, what the 49ers were getting with this. It does kind of feel like, I don't know if the 49ers were interested in Xavier Worthy and, the 49ers getting jumped by the Kansas City Chiefs was really something that they were ooh, wow. Man, guess that's what happens when you've been talking all day. Listen, I think this is a quality wide receiver. Like, I think we got a good wide receiver. Now, did anyone anticipate him in the first round? We'll have that conversation if we believe that he's potentially a reach, those types of things, right? Because I do think that the Kansas City Chiefs jumping ahead of the 49ers to take Xavier Worthy was something that was pretty interesting to see. Completely surprised by the Bills making that trade with the Chiefs. Like, what the hell, man? Because I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers had Xavier Worthy in their sights and they had to pivot uh, to next on their board. They had Xavier Legette on a 30 visit. They had other wide receivers that we would consider ranked ahead of Ricky. They had access to, they had interest in, and the 49ers opted to go in a different route, a bit unconventional route. Now, he felt like a second or third round draft pick. So I think a lot of people have a hard time with where he was taken. Again, I think unfortunately for Ricky, he's getting undersold here a little bit based on the circumstances. I think Ricky could be a really good player for us. Like, he is a phenomenal athlete. He's a natural wide receiver. Um, like he's a good player. And again, it's hard when we've been looking at these rankings and mock drafts and all these things, and this guy is and hasn't sniffed anywhere near the first round by most consensus picks. Um, but he could be a guy that fits really well with the 49ers and what they like to do. So I'm not going to sit here and say it was a terrible pick. I would say that it was a reach in regards to perceived value. And I think the key word there or phrasing is perceived value. Now, those guys you have to give somewhat of the benefit of the doubt to in regards to research and all those different types of things, and what they've been doing. What I didn't love about the pick is that like all the other stuff that I think came from it, the right after that it was, oh, now it's appearing that we're going to keep Debo or we're going to keep Brandon Ayuk, but now apologies. But now Debo Samuel apparently is the guy who could get traded, which I did not have on our radar. And again, I mentioned earlier in during today was I had heard Debo being floated. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and substantiate like sources or anything like that, but people that I trust told me that Debo had been floated in a couple things. Is it true? Is it not true? I can't tell you for sure. But I heard that back in March. And now it's like Debo's back, like fully integrated into this trade conversation now more than Ayuk has been. And which is crazy. Because now it feels like it's calmed down a little bit with Brandon Ayuk, because now you got Ayuk texting John Lynch and these guys going back and excuse me, it's been a long day. You got John Lynch and like Kyle Shanahan joking about like Brandon texting him being like, "Oh, that's a fire pick, good pick." Like partly due to Ayuk and Pearsall being former teammates at ASU. And so Ayuk seems to be in good spirits. He seemed really happy for Jaden Daniels on the live. I think that Brandon Ayuk not getting traded in the first round is a better just like Mike Silver said. It's a better indication that Brandon Ayuk is going to stay. But now it's like now we're talking about Debo being potentially traded, which is interesting. And Josh says John was hiding his phone from Kyle at the press conference. I listened to the press conference. They seem to be, really just trying to downplay, I think, a lot of the trade stuff, and they didn't close the door on anything. So I think that's something to keep in mind, is that they left the trade door open, which I understand from their perspective. So I don't think we're done yet with this situation. But again, it's a difficult situation because we're losing sight of the player that we took, and because of the perceived value of said player, and the situation with Debo, where he reposted that story he reposted that report or rumor to his story, which is another crazy situation in of itself. But man, I think the 49ers got a quality wide receiver. You know, like I think they got a guy um, who can contribute and can be a part of this team. Uh, and you know, I've watched him play. Like I know who he is. I knew exactly who he is. Like he's a very shifty route runner, crisp, in and out of his breaks. He's just like, yeah, you know, he's one of those guys that just like they're just like chopping ta ta ta, and he's like cutting gone, and like he can manipulate his body very quickly. Um, so they might have a broader vision for the pick than we anticipate right now. So that's part of it. Is but I think with that report coming out, it makes it feel like a lateral move, and I'm not a fan of lateral moves. Um, for the most part, I understand sometimes you got to do it. Uh, but I think we should chill a little bit on like, you know, I'm looking at, you know, if we want to look, I think the problem is people just perceive him to be a reach. Well, let's take a look at where he's ranked amo- amongst most major draft outlets. Uh, excuse me. Walter Football has Ricky as their 42nd best player. The Athletic has Ricky as their 42nd best player. Draft Buzz 43rd, ESPN 44, uh, MDDB 45, PFF 45, NFL.com 47, DraftNet 50, DraftWire 53, and then CBS 64. So I think when you look at like the rankings based on, and again, these are media rankings. I think that is important. But when you see the majority of them within 42 to 45, um, that's not that far away from 31. And you also have to understand that in this scenario, the 49ers aren't picking again till 63. So if you really like a guy at 31, you're not getting him to 63. You're not gonna go all the way through and pick him at 63. So you have to make the decision to go and get your guy sometimes. So from that standpoint, I get it. I get it. Um, I think it was a slightly perceived reach. I think ideally you trade back maybe into the second and early second, maybe you take him there, right? You trade back, get some more value, then you select him. And that fixes the perceived reaching, right? Uh, and Jeffrey, with all due respect, my guy, I can do whatever I want. And so when I'm looking at this selection, was it a surprise? Absolutely. Was I expecting it? No freaking way. Did I think that this was going to be something that was a range of outcome? Absolutely not. Did I think Ricky was going to go at 31? No. Did I think Ricky was a first round prospect? No, I didn't. But when you heard from John Lynch and he spoke to the 49ers media corps, he said he only had 22 first round grades. Okay, well, if you only have 22 first round grades and you're picking at 31, what are you drafting at 31? Are you picking a first round guy? Did they fall to you? Or are you again? I can't speak to their thought process because I'm not in their draft rooms, so I don't understand their logic, but I can try to remove myself from my logic and try to perceive someone else's logic. So the problem is by the fan base, it's perceived as a reach. Understood. Understood. I get that. I would perceive it as a reach as well, based on value, uh, perceived value. I will say perceived value. So, uh, but that doesn't mean that this guy can't be a good player for us. I think two things can be true at once. We might perceive this as a reach, but it doesn't mean he's not a good player. Who who are you to say what he is or is not? And uh to counterpoint some of these people who are like, again, like this comment right here, this no, not this one. You can't even begin to justify this pick. Well, guess what? If Puka Nakua was the 31st pick in last year's draft, do you know how roasted? You know how roasted uh that team would be who took Puka Nakua at 31? They would have got fried. A reach. Absolute reach. Puka Nakua, by most experts, is considered right now a top 10 NFL wide receiver based on what he did last year as a rookie. So that's my point. That's my point. Is that yes, perceived value feels like a reach, but we don't know who he is yet. We don't know who he is, and we don't know what he will be. He has qualities that will translate into being a quality wide receiver, but we don't know what he is yet. So we just got to wait and see. Just be patient. I could understand being angry at like, oh, we reached, what are we doing? I get it. Trust me. But it's important to remember that we could show up in August to training camp and we're like, oh, we got a dog. And at that point, who cares where he was taken? At 31 or 63, who cares? So right now, I get it. Right now, I get it. I've been talking too much today. I've literally been talking all day. Literally all freaking day. To 95.7 the game interview at a Cron 4 hit, 4.5 hour draft live show, a live before that live. Boy. Yeah, I got to get to your super chats. Dawson said, I can see him being a Debo type. Excuse me, type player with that athleticism. He can be a guy that can really fit well. Like he can. He's not a bad receiver. Like he was. Like, if we got Ricky Pearsall at 63, I would be hyped. I would be hyped. I would be like, guys, we got a good wide receiver at 63. I'd be like, we got a great value at 63. So he's somewhere in the middle between 63 and 31. They took him at 31. So right now it might not feel great. But We don't know what he is. So just be patient. Grain of salt is what I would say. Don't have like a definitively strong take where you're ready to crucify this guy just because he doesn't match your perceived value. When in reality, he could be your favorite player in 3 years from now. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Brian says tomorrow just got much more interesting. Yeah, tomorrow got more for sure. Tomorrow got way more interesting for sure. Can we talk about Mike Silver? Can we talk about Mike Silver leaking the wrong pick? No, that was crazy though. Bro leaked the wrong pick. I can't believe it. Next time I see Mike Silver, bro, I'm gonna let him know about that. Next time I see Mike, pal. Oh boy. Oh boy. That was nuts. He said DeJean to the Niners. And then we reacted to it and he said, "Oh, sorry, premature." I said, "What?" And he says, Pearsall to the Niners. It's like in real time, I was like, is this a joke? Like, what is happening? How do you get that wrong? How does that happen? How do you leak the wrong pick? I don't know. I just found that crazy. That was crazy to me. I was like, oh my god. I was like, oh my gosh. Unbelievable. I think at that time, I think we had probably like we were close to like 4 or 5,000 people on stream too. That was crazy. That was crazy. I told everyone I'm tipping the pick because I gotta move. Like I gotta move fast. It was just wild. Just a wild situation. And then right after that, we get the rumor that Debo might be traded. Crazy, crazy world that we be living in. But I don't know. I wanted to come back on, kind of react to the situation a little bit further. We got kind of like cut off there after the pick uh, and all those different types of things. Uh, and yeah, man, it was kind of wild. It was a wild night. I was a wild end to the draft that I was not anticipating. But to be honest, not surprised. Not surprised. Samuel says, sucks Ayuk staying. Still couldn't be resolved. Sucks Ayuk staying, still couldn't be resolved. I don't know. Kind of sounds like it is. Says, Pearsall looks promising, though. So far, I still believe 49ers can return to Super Bowl. Got to equip to beat the Chiefs. I don't know. It feels like, based on everything that's being said, it sounds like Sounds like Ayuk's got a better chance of staying than Debo. So we'll see. I would have liked to see the 49ers take Newton for sure. Newton, Kool-Aid, or Cooper, I definitely would have taken ahead of those guys, ahead of Pearsall. But hey, man, it is what it is. All right, y'all. We'll see what's going down. But we'll be back at it tomorrow. Hopefully we get some better reactions tomorrow. It's going to be another wild day. Shout out to all you guys for tapping in, though, all throughout the day. I do appreciate it. And thank you guys, as always, for tapping in. We'll do it tomorrow, like I said. And like Brian said, it's going to be very interesting tomorrow. So let's see what we get. I'm out of here. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it.